international break is over and done with, which means domestic football is back, which means fantasy Premier League football is back as well. Last week, myself and Frankie caught up as we did a little concept squad fitting Haaland and Salah into the team. But in today's episode, we're going to take a look ahead to this weekend and, of course, answer that big question. Have we wildcarded? Frankie, how is oneself?
Ball being back, that England lark, I still can't get into it. I didn't watch any of it, to be perfectly honest with you. So,
anyway, shall we start with your team and my team? Which one you fancying to go with?
Let's go with Geo's team. I think there'll be a bit more interest and a bit more changes.
Yeah, you're right. I've hit the wild card. So basically, it's the same as last week. So myself and Frankie spoke to our concept team. And as I was discussing mine, I just convinced myself this is what I want to do. I'm fed up of fear of missing out when Salah plays. So I thought, I'm going to go get him. So I'll talk you through it. This is my team going into the weekend. Henderson is in goal for me, Crystal Palace keeper. Going back three with Vico Lewis, Alexander-Arnold, Gabriel. Semenyo's cup staying in there with Rodgers, who's due to score soon. 2 goals for England under 21s the other night. And took a penalty and scored as well. So I'm hoping he might find himself at the top of Aston Villa's penalty kick takers. Eze, I've brought Mo Salah in, captain armband against Forest, and then I've gone Pedro, Delap, and Haaland up front. Porto debated starting, but I'll put him on the bench for this one. So that's my team, Frankie. I do have one big concern. Well, I've got two. One is the international. So Pedro obviously played for Brazil. So I've got some concerns over some minutes for my team. But my biggest worry is Man City. And it's now we're ready to start to get into the realms of Pep roulette, aren't we? Where Champions League's around the corner as well. So we're going to start to see rotation. We might see Haaland. There's been a few games in the past. City team comes out and Haaland's just not there. So I'm going to start to get a little bit worried about Pep time.
Yeah, we've got Pep time. I haven't had loads of City, but, it's only been really Haaland that's been in my team from City so far. But if I have pulled the trigger on the wild card, then obviously I had tipped Rico Lewis to come in, and that's one that we were a little bit uncertain about. How many minutes would he get? How many starts he'd get? And it isn't just starting lineups. It is the fact that more substitutions. He's quite happy to 60th minute 2 or 3 come off, switch it around. So, even that game time and minutes on the pitch is also a factor. So, yeah, City's going to be one of them ones where I think if people trigger their wild cards between week 4 and week 6, you may see more City players dropping out of people's teams for that reason.
Yeah, so there's 2 players I'm annoyed I don't have in my team too. One is Jared Bowen. So just for context, I did my wildcard team immediately after we did our episode last week. So I've had this team for a week now because of the price rises. So Rico Lewis went up 0.1 million and I think it was Salah went up 0.1 million as well. So I timed it correctly. But obviously between then and now, folks who got injured with Germany, and it looks like Bowen's now possibly going to become a striker for this weekend. I'm gutted I don't have him anyway, but I feel like I've really messed up not having Bowen in my team. But it's just too expensive in terms of the other ones I've got in there. And the second player is Isak. I'm just a big fan of Isak, that's all. But he's just too... I can't squeeze him in. It's Salah or Bowen and Isak, and I went Salah, so I'm hoping I made the right decision. I'm being bold, though. Fortune favours the bold, Frankie, supposedly. We'll find out this week. Now, before we take a look at Frankie's team and we discuss 1 or 2 players that we should maybe be keeping our eyes on, even if we don't have them in our team, we've created a league for the viewers of this series only. This is the details on your screen. So if you put in the code DQ0E52, that will enter you into the private league. It's just called Geo Frankie's YouTube, I think it's called. The link's in the description below. If you click that link, it will automatically add you in. So there's the code. That's the code on your screen now. So get entered into the league. At the end of the season, whoever wins that league will win a signed Julian Dinks print. However, if you're watching this, you're not a West Ham fan, don't worry. We will get you a substitute for the team that you support. It depends who you support. So you said, I support Man U. We'll go get your signed Paul Scholes photo or something like that. We have access to sign memorabilia from other football clubs other than just West Ham. We just don't buy it because we want to support West Ham. So we will sort you out a prize. Don't worry about that one. Also, it starts this weekend, so everybody starts on 0 points. So there's nobody's had an advantage or disadvantages yet. So get your team ready. Even if you're watching this, you've had a bad start to the season, you can wild card, start afresh, and try and win this league. See if you can beat myself and Frankie, because someone's winning a prize as well. Throughout the season, we'll have some spot prizes. We'll do one before Christmas, where we just announce the manager of the week will win a certain prize. Frankie, shall we have a look at your team?
Let's have a look.
I'm intrigued here. So tell me, right, your team, have you made any substitutions at all? Or are you still just rolling
I'm
them?
gutted that I used up 2 subs when I said I wouldn't, because if I had those extra free transfers this week by rolling them like I said I was going to do, I would be all good for this weekend with being able to bring Salah in without having to use a wild card and make the changes that I need. Where that comes into play a little bit, it's really interesting because now we can roll 5 free transfers. No one really knew how to play it. The reason I haven't pulled the trigger on the wild card is because I've got too many that have dropped in value, and I don't want that valuation hit. I don't want to lose. If I wildcarded that team, all the players come out that have dropped in terms of value, then I lose 0.4 million, and I just don't want to. I don't want to lose that. That can really be the difference between you getting a player in that you really want and not. So I don't want to do it. I'm just trying to hope that their value will come back a little bit.
I was about to say, though, you're taking a bit of a gamble here. And
I know.
Which players in particular? Looking at this, the Frankie's team is on the screen right now. So if you're listening, you might have to glance at the screen for the next minute or so. But which players in particular have dropped? I mean, I could probably take a guess at 1 or 2. I'd imagine Szoboszlai has.
Szoboszlai actually is okay. He stayed the same. Garnacho's dropped.
Yeah.
Watkins has dropped.
Yeah.
One that I think's really harsh, Anthony Gordon's dropped. Even though he got 10 points in game week 2, he's dropped. So I think that's really harsh.
I think you'd be okay holding on to those players, actually. Garnacho eventually will start getting more minutes. I'm surprised he's had his limited minutes as he has, but I just feel like that relationship with Ten Hag's a bit rocky. I think Garnacho's liked something on social media this week as well, which isn't going to help his case. And then he's been, whilst he didn't play for Argentina, he has been away. So I don't know if you'll see him this weekend, but I imagine Gordon and Watkins' price will
should do
eventually. So I think you're maybe okay.
The other 2 was Elanga and Anderson. So you warned me about Elanga from the start. I still was hopeful that he would have a good season this year. And Anderson, obviously, he got a move. So again, I feel like it's a bit of a harsh drop because he had a transfer situation going on. That's why he's not picking up points. But if you're not picking up points, you drop in value. That's it.
I think you'll be okay with Anderson. Elanga, you're just really unlucky, actually. Even though I didn't think you should have had him, the reason I think you're unlucky is because he was on the verge of joining Newcastle towards the end of that transfer window. And had he joined Newcastle, suddenly it goes from a bad pick to a good pick almost immediately, and suddenly you've got Newcastle's left winger and right winger in your team, and that's points there. He's more likely to pick up points on a Newcastle shirt, but I can get why you're holding on to them, actually. I think they've all got a chance of...
I think so. If I thought there was no chance, you've got to cut your losses, you've got to move on, and points are more important than value. But I'm just looking at them, and I just think, Garnacho, he did start the last game. Obviously, Man United got absolutely spanked by Liverpool, but better fixture this weekend, Southampton. If he starts the game, there's every chance that he gets a return. If he gets a return, I fully expect him to go back to, his original value. And then, Elanga, I still think he's been unlucky. He started every game. He's played a lot of minutes. Forest just are not a particularly good team, and that's what's suffering him at the moment a little bit. So Watkins, there's still a yellow warning on him at the moment as to whether he will start. Obviously, he had that situation with England. I've been keeping an eye on the updates and on the news, and no one's really got the answer at the moment as to whether he will be the man that starts. But what makes me even more nervous is Duran's taking his chances when he comes on the pitch at the moment, and scary.
Also, I'm about to say, holding on to Watkins, if he's unavailable this weekend, let's just say he doesn't play, his price will drop. Yeah. Once more, I think. You're in a difficult situation with Watkins because damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if you keep him and he doesn't play, you're in trouble. But if you transfer him out, suddenly he starts and bags a goal.
Yeah.
You're going to regret it. So you put yourself into a bit of an awkward one.
I think it's timing. I see it as we come back after the international break, fresh start for some players who haven't kicked on since the beginning of the season. Watkins might have had the rest that he needed. He obviously was with the England team. He didn't really have a break. Well, he's had a bit of a rest now, so he's had his opportunity to get himself back fully fit and do a bit of work on the training ground. So if he's in that starting lineup and he's fit, we might see him a big performance. Garnacho, if he starts, I think he can turn it around. So there are players in there that I think if they were write-offs, I might have pulled the trigger already. Like you said, if Watkins doesn't start and it looks like it could be an issue, or even if Duran starts to get the nod as the man who starts because he keeps scoring, I think eventually you give the manager a situation where you're saying, well, every time I come on, I score a goal and I deserve to start now, regardless of how good Watkins is. So I'm going to give it this match game week, see how it goes. If Watkins doesn't start, doesn't feature, or has a bit of a stinker, and some of the other players have issues, then that wild card might be triggered very quickly before those additional price drops, and I just have to draw a line under it and suffer it.
Yeah,
but fingers crossed.
Your other issue might be Champions League football. I think it gives Emery an easy solution to give Duran Premier League minutes and Ollie Watkins Champions League football. I think that's maybe how he might go when that competition. It starts this week, doesn't it, Champions League? I'm unsure if Villa play this week or not, but starts this week, so this is something we're going to have to take into consideration. In terms of players that you'd be looking at, if someone's listening to this and they're not liking either of our teams and they've got a little bit of lolly in the bank and they're looking to transfer, is anyone in particular to be targeting for this specific game week?
So I think Rico Lewis is the obvious one, but again, we know with City and what we've just mentioned, I don't know how good of a decision that would be to bring him in, especially after his little price increases as well. So it's an awkward one. I'm liking Mazraoui, as we said if I would have wildcarded, that's someone that I would have potentially brought in. So I like him. Gonzo's main man, Adama Traore. I think he could be someone who's a little... If you're doing that whole Haaland and Salah thing and you're looking for some cheaper options, not this week though, because Adama's going to have a stinker this weekend and he ain't going to be any good at all. So that's wait until next week for that one. Eze, I think, is just an obvious choice at the moment as well. He's started to find the back of the net, which is really important, and started to get returns. So he's a good one. And then I'd almost just had this opinion that Brighton won't be as good this year. I sort of just didn't quite fancy them to kick on again. There's only so many times a team can sell their players, change their managers and stay with the momentum that they've got. So I really didn't fancy them. But Matoma and João Pedro are both kind of there and just giving you things to think about. So yeah, they're the ones that I guess need to be considered. Yeah,
I've got a little bit of... While I've got rid of my fear of missing out on Salah, I've now incorporated this fear of missing out on Cole Palmer because Chelsea obviously haven't included him in their European squad, which makes sense. It's Conference League football. They can put him in it in January if they want. So for now, he's not in that European team. So he will only be playing Premier League football. So I think Cole Palmer is a really good one if you can afford him. Eze, I completely agree with you. Leicester at home, Man U at home, Everton away the next 3 games. I think that's a really good pick. Danny Welbeck is actually somebody that has surprised me with how he started this season. But with Ipswich at home and Nottingham Forest at home in his next 2 games, Pedro's obviously been away with Brazil as well. I had concerns over his minutes, but they've disappeared. Seeing Brighton start to the season. So if you're looking for a striker for just this weekend or the next 2 weekends, I would strongly consider and recommend Danny Welbeck for your team, actually. Jared Bowen, I think, is a really good pick, as we've mentioned. Fulham, Chelsea, Brentford, Ipswich in the 4 games before the next international break. I think that's a solid set of fixtures for West Ham. And lastly, it's my man, Morgan Rogers. He's cheap and he's due to start hitting big returns. I'm convinced. Everton at home, Wolves at home, Ipswich away, Man U at home, Fulham away, Bournemouth at home. They've got a really nice run of fixtures over the next couple of months. The concern is Champions League football. That's the worry, because how is Emery going to balance that Villa team? There's plenty of options in that squad, but who's going to be kept fresh for the Champions League games? I do have a worry Rodgers may quickly become one of Villa's main men. But for now, he's still cheap. His price has gone up, but he's still at the lower end of the scale when it comes to midfielders. And I think it allows you to pick up a midfielder starting pretty much every game for Aston Villa with a healthy set of fixtures as well. Played in the number 10 role. Ollie Watkins has missed a couple of sitters that Rodgers has set him up for as well. So he should have had some more points on the board. The only thing stopping Rodgers from hauling more is poor finishing by Ollie Watkins. So I'm quite confident Rodgers is going to become a must-have in Fantasy League later on this season if he keeps getting his minutes in the Premier League. I just think he's a wonderful talent. I think he had a really good 6 months when he joined last January, and I think he's just been fantastic, and he's become more central, especially with Diaby going and now Ramsey back, who tends to play on the left, and McGinn can play on the left as well. So he's really picking up a good position. So I won't stop banging the drum for Rodgers. I'm going to Fantasy League. You've got to pick your sword and die on it, haven't you? Haaland doesn't count. Salah doesn't. Those obvious ones don't count. It's the cheap ones. That's where you make your points. And Rodgers is where I'm going to make mine. Are
you still totally convinced by your man Semenyo? Is he still the man who's going to...
He's in my team. I think it's picking and choosing the games to play him in. But he, lucky last week, he got 2 weeks ago, he got that goal to sort of justify my chatting up Semenyo. But a couple of difficult fixtures coming up for him now. However, because I've got, I think, plenty of options, I can leave him out in the next game. I can put him on the bench and bring Brentford's Mbeumo in, so I'm not that concerned. It's how I like to do Fantasy League. I like to have one or two big midfielders that just play every week, but then the other ones, I don't like having these. I see some people just pick an 11 and that's it. The bench is the cheapest possible in every position. I don't like that. I like to have options so that if someone's got a bad fixture, I can take him out, put someone else in. But that guy going in starts and might pick up points. And I see people say, I'm going to get this guy because he gets minutes. And I want more than that from a midfielder. I want bloody goals and assists as well, not just minutes. So I've got, look at my midfield 5 here. Salah, Eze, Rodgers, Semenyo, and Mbeumo. They've all got goals and assists among them. So all I have to do is decide which one's least likely to return for me that weekend, put them on the bench, and go with the other four. And same with my back four, Gabriel, Trent, Lewis, Porto, they've all got returns in them. Even Mosquera, possibly, if once Wolves get better fixtures and they settle down a bit, because they've been my biggest disappointment to the start of the season, possibly. The attack looks a little bit light, but I'm hoping that I'll be okay. But my midfielders have all got the potential to score every weekend, and I like it.
I used to be the same as what you just said there. I used to, just pick the cheapest option and then allow me to spread it across the main team. But like you say, if there's an injury that crops up, or if there's, any reasons why you need to make that substitution, it can really hurt. So I'm the same as you. I do try and think a little bit more of, making sure there's points on the bench. Well, you've gone early. You're obviously wildcarded. I'd say game week 4 is early. I would say it's early. So
sometimes I don't wildcard until very late on in the season and stuff. Yeah. So, but I'm trying to take this one. I normally get fed up with fantasy. I normally miss a couple of weeks and just give up. So I'm trying to. Doing this video helps me actually keep on top of it. So I'm hoping that that will continue to be the way, because I want to win this little league that we're doing.
It'd be nice. I certainly want to compete. I certainly want to try and be up there a little bit. But normally I'm an early wild card merchant, just because I think early on form plays a big part in the Premier League. You normally find that players who hit the ground running sort of go on that run up until Christmas. So, normally I'm quite gung-ho with that and pull the trigger early doors, but I haven't. I'm trying to stick to my guns, accept that I might slip away a little bit and may not be, at the front of the pack, but I'm hoping that it plays dividend further down the line. So you didn't triple captain either, did you, when we could have done? So
No,
we've both still got that in the bag. So we need to find that optimal opportunity to play that at some point as well. So
yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Just as a reminder, this is the league details to get entered into. The code is D Delta Quebec 0 Echo 5-2. Get that in, get entered into mine and Frankie's league. The winner will pick up a signed photo at the end of the season. It's free to enter, and it's for the viewers of this series only. So there'll probably only be 50 to 100 people in the league. So you've got, my rule of thumb, if you're watching this, you're at the end of a video about Fantasy League, you take Fantasy League seriously. Regardless, from that point on, now we've admitted you take Fantasy League seriously, I assume you're pretty good at it. You'll be doing your team every single weekend. So every time you do one of those things, it increases your chances of performing well in the league. So this league could run, half the players or something could do their team every single season. So it'd be a crunchy league to be involved in, not like those ones you join me and mates, and by the end of the season, 80% of the league have given up. I don't think that's the case here. I think most of us are going to be playing it week in, week out. So it'll be interesting to see how far we get. So please do get involved, and myself and Frankie will catch up with you next week, where we can see if Garnacho's dropped in price again after being benched by Ten Hag once more. But
do you know what, Gio? I've had a thought. Just to encourage those people to get involved on week 1. And we've said about prizes. I have got here a few more of the posters that were up around the ground on the final of the Conference League. The really nice posters, and they were dotted around the stadium. So I'm happy to chuck in one of those posters as a prize for week 1. Whoever comes top of the
of this week.
Of this week.
Okay, so whoever is manager of the week this week will win a poster that was in the stadium when West Ham won the Conference League final in Prague. Thank you to Frankie. That's a good prize, that one. I hope I win. I want it. And I'm going to have it on show here every video we do, just to annoy you, Frankie, to remind you or beat you. And I got your poster.
We might have to have a little forfeit situation with who comes above each other. That'll be a bit of an interesting one as well.
That for next week. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to Hammer Chat, myself and Frankie. Catch you in a bit.